So we got the audio. I'll share my screen, and we're almost there. We are good to go. Like that better. Okay. 478. Here we go. Who's excited for a new semester? I just can't believe it. It just seems like a short break. Here we go. Um, we were just talking about this class, what we've heard from this class. Dallin says this class is okay until the final. That's what he's heard. That's what he's heard. What have you heard about this class, Nate? First aid are not bad. Last four is terrible. Hard. Anybody else? Trevor, you heard anything? Nice. Kind of the same as other classes. Okay. All right. Andrea, what have you heard about this class? Really? A lot of complaints. What are they saying? What are the complaints? Oh, that. Is that all he's saying? Is that what complaining is now? It's just hard. It's fun? Did Justin say that? Just Justin Maines. I don't know if you know Justin Maines. He took this class now 2 semesters ago, and he did say it was fun. He enjoyed. So if nobody else, at least Justin likes it. I guess that's a good thing. Yeah. So let's talk about the course introduction. Let's get set up on VBA, and we're gonna launch forward in this class. So let's start with a prayer. Um, any volunteers for prayer? Anybody want to say a prayer for us? Who needs some blessings? Peter? Great, thank you. Amen. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, good times. Wow, it's a lot to cover. Easter, Sunday. Did you guys have a good Easter? That was quick. Easy. Good. 8 o'clock in the morning on Easter? 1:30. Really? Wait, isn't that good? You can sleep in? And it was over. Short day. Yeah, I do remember going to one of my cousins' church once. I think they started like at 4:30 in the afternoon because they were short on buildings. It was like a temporary thing. But I think they started at 4:30, got out at 6:30 on Sundays. Yeah, that was pretty nice. I had the chance to play the organ in my ward on Sunday, and I'm like the backup to the backup to the backup to the backup. I mean, I'm like the guy they call. There's nobody else you can call. I don't know how to do the pedals. You know how you do the feet? The real organist use the feet, pedals. I'm not that good. I'm not there yet. And there's a button on the organ. It's called the bass coupler, and you push this button, and it will sound like you're playing the pedals with the lowest note that you play, and it's actually not terrible. It's actually a little kind of cool. So I actually sounded better than I was, but it was fun. It was a fun way to. It was fun for me to kind of prepare, right? To kind of get ready for and just kind of celebrate in that way. It was really fun. I remember we were playing the song. Our closing song was "He Is Risen," and I remember just pushing all the volume up to the max, and we were just shaking the building, and it was pretty fun. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was good. Well, good. Okay, so in terms of this course, let's see, where should we start here? Um, there is a book to this course. And well, here, let me just give you an overview of what I thought we talk about. Course introduction. We'll talk about the book, and we're going to set up some VBA. Hopefully, you guys have access to a computer today. Everybody bring a computer? Hopefully, you did. If you didn't, you can watch your neighbor and stare at your neighbor the whole time the neighbor does this, and make it as awkward as possible. Just kidding. You don't have to do that. But that's really what we're going to do is we're going to set up some VBA today. I'll give you a little bit more on the course introduction, the book. Um, Before I get there, I want to show some stats. Here's some interesting stats that I saw recently um, about belonging and connection. And I talked a little bit about this before. Let's see, Trevor, Nate, and Kathleen. Oh, and Jacob. Four of us just came from an earlier class, so we had the 461 right before this, and I think a couple of you have been that. Just two of you have been in that one, and so we come from that. Are you taking that next semester? Okay, cool. A year from now. Um, so we were talking about this idea of belonging and connection. Here's some data that I thought was pretty interesting. Um, what this is a survey of campus day students, people like you, fall of 2023, and here are some data points on this idea of belonging and connection. The highest one here, 1,000 people, 1,028, 88%. I feel comfortable with the gospel-focused environment at BYU, Idaho. That's the highest one. And that is higher education focused question, right? Department or major. There is an instructor from my major who cares about my success in college. 82%. That's actually really cool, right? This is students that are answering this. I don't think it's that high, even at BYU Provo, if I'm honest. I don't know what the data is, but my guess is it's probably a little bit lower. I have one or more close friends at BYU Idaho, 75%. I feel like I belong at BYU Idaho, 73%. I feel like I belong at college. That's an interesting one to me. I think there are some examples or there's some situations where students come and they feel like, what am I doing here? This is way over my head. If you're in a 478 level class at this point, my guess is you probably don't fit into that category, but maybe you fit into this from a major perspective or from a particular class, managerial accounting, right? I don't belong in managerial accounting, right? I mean, that might be something that someone thinks. I would feel comfortable asking for a letter of recommendation from an instructor in my major, 68%. That's pretty good. But look at some of these other ones. I regularly participate in university sponsored activities, 28%. That's pretty low. Why is that? Why do you guys think that's lower for BYUI students? I don't know. Is that lower? Is that average? Is that above average? Sure. You're married. I think that's fair. I think that's fair, right? I think that's reasonable. Sure. There's probably a chunk of this non 28% that is kind of, I don't really want to go to the dance. I'm going to stay home with my wife. We're going to watch Netflix or whatever the activity is. Yeah, I think that's fair. Do you think that accounts for all of the difference? I mean, is that really? It's probably so. So where's the other percentages? Any other thoughts? Yeah, I think that's right. Why is that? At BYU Idaho, why is that? Or they just don't like the activities, or the phones, the technology. That would be an interesting one. Like, what's the breakdown in terms of age, in terms of credits, number of credits in school, right? Freshman, sophomore, junior. Are these the seniors? 28%? Maybe. Probably. I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, if you were to break this 28%, what would you guess? More freshmen, more sophomores? I think I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. Younger. Yeah. 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 And is that okay? Are we okay with that? Or is that? I mean, part of that's probably okay just because of age, right? I mean, I think that's okay, but at some level, are we missing out too? But you're engaged and you're studying and you're working. I think maybe a big part of this one is I see at BYU Idaho a lot of students that are working off campus, right? Part-time jobs, full-time jobs. And frankly, I think that's a great thing, if I'm really honest, from an experience perspective, from a life progression perspective. So this says this 28 looks like it's low, but on one hand, I feel like I don't know if that's necessarily bad, but maybe there still is room for improvement, right? I mean, maybe there is something that we can do. Um, this is an interesting one to me as well. I have a fulfilling social life as a student at BYU Idaho, 50%. That one seems a little low to me. There he is. What's up, Carter? How you doing? You don't have to sit in the back. You can sit up front. Yeah, you can sit in the front row if you want. Why not? I mean, that's where you were basically, last semester. We're just talking about belonging and connection, and we're looking at some of the highs and the lows. I regularly participate in university-sponsored activities. I guess the other interesting one here to me is when you look at these two at the bottom ones. This is significantly different, right? It's possible to have a social life and not attend university-sponsored activities, right? I think it is interesting. I think sometimes I hear and it's not a big percentage of students, but I've heard there's really nothing to do in Rexburg. They don't have very much stuff to do. And part of me says, well, now wait a second. If only 28% are participating in activities that are already here, right? It seems like there's a mismatch there between it's not that there's no activities, it's that they don't want to go to the activities that are offered, right? And there's lots of interesting reasons for that. But the other thought there is what role does university sponsored activities play in this idea of belonging and connection? And I think one of the reasons why they do these surveys and collect this data is to answer that question. If university sponsored activities has a huge impact on belonging and connection, and if it's low, then the university should increase that, right? We should do more. If, however, the university does sponsored activities, but nobody comes, and you can still have a feeling of belonging and connection without that, then maybe resources are better spent other ways, right? Um, I think this is an interesting. I mean, I'm not in these circles making these decisions, but I think the questions they're asking and the data that they're using to try to figure out how do we create this? If part of the goal of BYU Idaho is creating this belonging and connection, how do we do that? And then here's one more slide on some data on this. Um, some of this I think makes sense, right? And then some of it offers some questions and some room for more analysis. The top left one here is belonging and connection as freshmen, percent very or extremely true. Um, what area of their life do they have belonging and connection? 70% higher education, very or extremely true for freshmen. Department or major, 45%. Church or ward, 45%. Social peers, 45%. I think that's interesting here is that these are very close. Um, Pretty high on the higher ed. When you look at this from seniors' perspective, there are some differences. Higher ed still pretty high, 71%. And when it says higher ed, I think it's talking about the institution as a whole, right? That there's belonging and connection there. And the department or major belonging connection is substantially more, right? From 45 to almost 64. The social peers actually decreased. And I think we've talked about that. Some of those age reasons, but the church and ward is almost the same, which is actually pretty interesting. Not a huge number here, 509 here and 615 here. Um, any thoughts on this one? What do you think? Anything that sticks out to you based on these results? Are these expected? Are these not expected? Any surprises? Please. Yeah. 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 Yeah, societies and internships and alumni. Try, yeah, great, great, great. That's good. That's really good. Okay, great, good. Well, good. Hopefully, one of the things I like about supply chain major is that it's a relatively small major, and one of the benefits is when I see somebody cross that stage with graduation, I've had them in most cases two classes, if not more, and there's a sense of connection that I have with students, which is kind of cool. Hopefully, you feel that too. Hopefully, you feel some belonging and connection. I have had experiences where students are just trying to push through and they're just trying to get through and their goal really is to finish, and the connection and belonging is kind of secondary. And to some in some ways, I feel like that's a good thing for them. But at the same time, I wonder if they are missing something, right? Are they? Yeah, they're going to get the degree, they'll graduate, they get the paper, they'll get a job. Are they missing out on things um, that could have been even a better experience than they had hoped for, right? Um, I don't know. If you guys have any thoughts on that one, let me know. Okay, great. Um, but this is, I've heard the College of Business and Communications, CBC, also be called Creating Belonging and Community as a kind of a tagline for the purpose of the College of Business Communications, creating belonging and community. And I would love to see you as you graduate and move on to stay connected, especially to the major, right? To the society, to future students, which is a really good, interesting opportunity. Okay, so let's talk about this course specifically. The 478, Operations Analysis and Modeling. We are going to learn some VBA in this class. This class is largely VBA focused. Um, and one can ask the question, it's a great question. Why VBA? Why are we doing VBA? Does anybody want to ask that question? Or are you guys okay with whatever? Peter, why VBA? Great question. Why not SQL? Why don't we spend a whole semester learning more SQL? Why don't we learn R Studio? The Price knows. Like you're an expert, or you? So you're an expert. It sounds like you're an expert. Okay, go ahead. That's good. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They do a lot of R stuff. What about Python? What about Python? Nice. Nice. Very good. I mentioned this in the other class, and I'll mention it briefly here. I am seeing like a ten to $12,000 salary difference between students who have data skills that graduate from this program and students that don't have strong data skills that graduate from this program. That's a pretty big difference. And I think I've seen that grow a little bit over the past few years. Meaning, I don't know where it'll stop growing. It probably won't grow that much more, but there is a significant difference, especially when you combine those data skills with an internship or some kind of applied project or portfolio of projects. Very, very powerful. This class is designed to give you some data skills and specifically VBA. Why VBA? It's a very great question. The short answer is it's accessible, it's semi universal. Most corporations anywhere in the world will have Excel. Um, And it's very, very powerful. So VBA gives us the ability to do some things in Excel that you've never done before. And this goes way beyond macros. I know that most of you have taken VA 215. We're going to go way beyond macros in this class. So if you think this class is a macros class, that's where the difficulty comes into play, right? That's where we go beyond macros. And we start to do that. We actually start to do some of that in like the first 4 weeks of the class. So it's expected here that if you don't have any program experience, that's fine. That's exactly where you should be, right? I'm not expecting you to have lots of programming or any program experience. We'll start from the very beginning. We'll start very easy. The first homework assignment, we're not writing any code. It should be fairly straightforward. But we're going to progressively move towards some pretty cool code, even to the point where we are I'll just say it. The hardest assignment for this class, the one we actually do coding, not the final, that's different. It's just multiple choice in the final. But the hardest assignment for this class is where we are importing data from 50 Excel files, importing it into an Access database um, with VBA code. And one of the reasons why it's so complex is because there's nuances in some of the Excel files. So not all of the Excel files are exactly the same. And so you have to account for another column in this file or a different row in this file. And you can do that. And it's possible to do it. And you can do it well. And what we're going to do is we're going to build skills to automate this importing of data into a database. So we're going to do a little bit of SQL. We don't really do a lot of SQL. We have some generic code that we'll kind of copy and paste. So we're not really focusing on SQL. Um, if you know SQL, it helps, and it's going to be really cool in the long run. Um, but the power of VBA goes beyond macros in a way that should be really exciting. So if you are, well, let's see. There's some students that come to this class that kind of already have it in their head that say, I'm not really a programmer. This class isn't really going to be helpful for me. And I've seen students succeed, even with that same mindset all the way through. If you're a person that's willing to learn and willing to put in some time and effort, I think that this class is structured in a way that you will be able to gain confidence in VBA such that you may not end up being an expert, but you'll be surprised at what you learn. If you put in the time and the effort, you'll be surprised at you'll learn much more than you think you would have been capable of learning, right? And part of that is due to the textbook that we're going to use and this idea of immediate feedback. So when we do an assignment, you're going to be able to submit it and get immediate feedback on if it's right or wrong. And with that immediate feedback, you can change your code and you can resubmit it, right? So part of how this class is set up helps us to gain some confidence in that. And that's actually pretty cool. There's not many classes that you can take in VBA. There's not many places anywhere that you can get some VBA instruction that offers you immediate feedback like that. So that's I'm kind of really excited about that. That's a really cool part of this class. Um, and the hope is, and the expectation here is that not that you're going to use VBA for the rest of your careers. Although I've heard from multiple students that one of the reasons why they got an internship or one of the reasons why they got a full-time job offer was because of the amount of skill that they learned from this class. So it is expected that this class will be able to open some doors and opportunities for you in multiple different industries. Um, but my guess is um, you probably won't spend your career in VBA. You might, but the reality is VBA is a terrific entryway into understanding data, using data to understand the larger business, right? If you can understand and manipulate data, you can understand how the business works. And that's going to enable you to progress in your career. So it's really a great early career entry point. It's a great early career skill. It's marketable. Companies are hiring for it. And it's really quite powerful. And we're going to cover some of that in this class. So that's kind of the short answer to your question. Why VBA? Is that good enough? Okay, good question. And like I talked about earlier this morning, just to recap a little bit on that, what we're doing here in combination with this class and other classes is we're giving you this great combination, right? We are providing you not just data skills, and that's what data science is doing. They're doing a great job. Good job for them. That's what computer science is doing. Good job. Good job for them. What we're doing here in this program is we're providing you data skills within the context of supply chain management. So just like that 461 class that we talked about this morning allows us to answer or ask the right questions. This class gives us the ability to answer those questions in a profoundly unique way. So I just want to point that out that that what we're trying to do here in this program is pretty unique right? I don't want you ever to feel like, well, I don't really have the data skills, data science skills like a data science graduate does, and that's fine. What you have is you have, I think, and this is might be false doctrine to somebody else, but for me, I feel like the value opportunity that you have as a supply chain major is the combination of understanding business through the supply chain world, and then to be able to ask the right questions and to answer those questions using your data skills, right? That combination is pretty unique. It's unique on this campus. It's unique in the professional world. So you should, I feel like you should lean on that, lean into that, right? And really understand that that integration of here's a business, here's a supply chain. How do we improve this? How do we create value? Combined with I have some pretty good programming understanding. I can manipulate data. I can automate some things. I have some good enough understanding to merge those together to create some pretty unique value wherever you go, right? From a starting base, from a career perspective, from a organizational perspective, that is a terrific foundation to build a career. So this should be exciting. So if I'm honest, I hope this class is hard. If I'm honest, in the sense that I feel like the combination of understanding these data skills is really going to be it's going to be quite valuable. It's going to distinguish you, right? It's going to differentiate you um, from others, and it's going to provide some opportunities. So that's exciting. Um, so here's some things we talked about. There's automation involved. There's reporting. There's summary of data. One of the things that I like to mention here is um, from a supply chain perspective, you have three different flows. You have the money flow, the product flow, and the information flow. And interestingly enough, I don't think we as supply chain management people, the money doesn't start with us and the product doesn't start with us, right? From a supply chain perspective. But the information flow, that's our bread and butter, right? That's why I think we need to become familiar with this data skill set is the information flow is our bread and butter in the supply chain. And that deals with money, it deals with products. That is the flow that we need to become really good at. So um, there's all this automation, and then there's this other piece here that really kind of goes beyond VBA in some ways, which I think is really interesting value add, which goes beyond the automation reporting. If you look at now, hear me out here. I'm being a little bit long-winded, but here's the thought for you. Um, here's the thought. And I'm trying to make a distinction here. A lot of times professors will say what data analytics and data skill set is visualizations and reporting. And and I agree with that we need visualizations, we need reporting, we need Power BI, we need Tableau, we need all that stuff, right? I would suggest there is actually another level to understanding data, which is multi-user networks. And what I mean by this is creating systems and applications, programs, interfaces where multiple departments can work together, where you're actually using a system to help other departments. Here's an example. Inventory management. You have the buyers. They need to know how much inventory we have to buy the right amount. Inventory management. You have the production floor. They need to know how much inventory they have for their production, right? You have the salespeople. They need to know how much they can tell customers we have, right? The executives, the accountants, they need to know how much our cost accounting is, an account, right? So for that one system of inventory management, if we were to build and to offer applications and interfaces like an inventory management system, we are building a multi-user network. It's not just a report or an interface where people look at and look away from to make a decision. A multi-user network is somewhere where they're actually making decisions in the tool to do their job. And VBA gets us part of the way there. Um, but I would say that would be like a future destination or future ideal is to say, how do we use VBA to connect across departments or companies? So that's a little bit long-winded. I apologize. A little bit, but that's really high level, in terms of information flow, the value. of creating interfaces, the value of manipulating data and automation and reporting and visualizations. That's a pretty high level for um, the value I think that we gain from learning the skill. So hopefully that gives you a glimmer of at least a glance. Any thoughts? Any perspectives on this? Any reactions? What do you think? Is this true? Is this false doctrine? Does this disagree with your personal constitution? What do you think? Anything? Any thoughts, Carter? Not really. Okay. Catherine? Here we go. Great. Nate? Nothing. Okay. Down? Big D? You agree? 100%. Any thoughts, reactions? Did you finish it? Multitasking. Okay. So no thoughts. Jacob? Okay, good. Andrea? Great. Bryce? Nice. Good, good. Peter? Yeah, very cool. I think value creating. Yeah, very good. Yeah, good. Great. Trevor, any thoughts? Great. Yeah, this might be overkill for you. You might be maybe you pick it up really fast. Maybe you could teach the class. Teach the second half. Teach when it gets really hard. I'll take off for a few weeks. They can help you out with any questions you have. It is helpful. That is helpful. If you're familiar with SQL or another language, you can definitely apply some of the logic of programming into VBA. But of course, there's syntax differences and other things like that. So that'll be good. I love President Nelson's quote: "Good inspiration is based on good information." And I love that connection in terms of the data, right? We know the gospel teaches us, which is great. The gospel teaches us this whole idea of inspiration. And I love this connection because it says we got to do our homework, we got to do the best we can, we got to figure it out, we got to use data. It's not saying ignore data. It's saying good inspiration is based on good information. And I love that from a business perspective. Um, I love the idea that we can work in a job and we can do a whole bunch of data, try to make the best decision that we can. And then from that process, inspiration will come to guide us, right? I love that connection. Um, it's a pathway to receive inspiration as the purpose of learning these skills, of putting in the time and effort to do the analysis, right? Yeah, it's for a grade, it's for a class, we got to do it to graduate, it's required, yes. But at the same time, right, what if there's a skill here for us to learn how to better seek inspiration through obtaining and managing and leveraging good information, um, which is really quite interesting, especially from a counseling perspective, right? What if there's a way to look at these supply chain interfaces that we're going to build and these projects that we're going to do in class as an opportunity for us to bring people together to improve the information that leads us to better inspiration. That's a fascinating idea, right? That those two can go together like that. It's really cool. Okay, let's get a little bit more tactical here. Um, let's talk about the textbook. This is a little bit of a messy learning process. There's no question that there's some struggle. Um, one thought here on this bullet item is pretty important. If you are pounding your head against the wall trying to solve a problem, sometimes just step away for a minute. And that's very common, not just in this class, but any kind of programming. They've done research on this, and they find that if you get too absorbed in one problem, you can't solve it. If you step away for a time and come back, more often than not, you find the problem, uh, which is kind of weird. Don't spend too much time at once on it. Go away and come back. Video recordings. I'm going to record each class and post the recording to the class website under course media. And so if you want to go back and watch something again for an assignment or you didn't catch something in class, you're more than welcome to do that. There's going to be some homeworks in the class. The purpose of the homework is to prepare for class that day, and the homework's going to be due at the end of the day. I invite you to work together, right? Connect with somebody in class. Hey, what was the homework again? Did you do this part? How did this go? How did you figure this out? As long as your fingers are doing the typing of the code, um, then from a homework perspective, please help each other as much as you can, as much as you want. Does that make sense? Talk about anything you want. Talk about specific code. Look at my code. What am I missing here? Can you help me out? I've got this far, but I can't get to this one. Can you help me out? As long as your fingers are doing the typing, I'm okay. For projects, don't talk code. So projects are a little bit harder. They take a little bit more time and effort, a little bit more involved. There's fewer projects than homework overall, but this one's more individual. And so I'm limiting here. Let's not talk specific code with other people in the class or with anybody, but you're welcome to talk about the process, right? What are the steps that you're doing to solve the project, to do the project, right? Well, the first step is I'm going to create some variables. The next step is I'm going to create a loop. I'm going to loop through something, right? Maybe the next step is I'm going to import some data, and then I'm going to check to see if this is true. If this is true, then I'll do this. If this is false, then I'll do something else, right? So I'm talking about the steps of the code, but not actual code, if that makes sense. So there's a small distinction there. Homework, talk about code all day long as your fingers are typing. On the projects, I prefer you to not talk code specifically, but you can share about your steps that you're taking, right? What steps should I do to solve this project? And then there are some exams in here. There's a midterm and final, multiple choice. Um, and these midterm and final exams, half of the exam is a definition, conceptual. What does this mean? What is this definition here? Kind of like words. And there's a study guide for that. And then half of the final is code examples. So here's an example of some code, right? What is the value of cell A1 after running this code? And so you're going to be able to need to know what happens to A1 through, and most of these examples are actually not that long, right? Most of these examples are talking 5, 6, 7, 8 lines of code. They're not long examples, but there's a couple of loops, or there's a couple of if-then statements. There's a couple of times when the variable changes to a different value. And so you have to understand how to read the code to be able to do well on these code examples. So the code is not necessarily complex in the finals and the midterms. Um, there's just some iteration that happens in there. So that's in a short version, that's kind of a quick look at the course. Any questions, comments, concerns? Anybody want to change anything, please? Yeah, good question. Let's go to it now. Perfect. Let's see. Actually, do I have it in here? No, I'll just go to it. So if we go to the course website here and I pull up the course website, let's see. Did I put the book in here? Oh yeah, right here. Link to textbook. Does that work? Does that work for you guys? If you click on class 1 link to textbook? That's a good question. What does it say? I see this because I'm an instructor here. It should bring you to myeducator.com. Do you guys see that when you click on that link? Let me double check because I want to make sure I got the link right. Yeah, yeah, you have to pay for it. That's right. So it is a paywall. I think it's is it 45? 40? Is it 40? Oh, is it 50? 49? Yeah, I was around there. I was close. 49.99. Sure. If you go to the homepage of the course and let's see, where's the homepage right here? There should be a link to a textbook right here, top right. Yeah. I should probably put that a little bit more accessible. Sorry? No, it's like a textbook fee. It's like buying a textbook. Yeah, yeah. It's like an online textbook. Um, yeah, to that point, one of the nice things about this textbook, I talked about the automatic grading, the immediate feedback. You will have access to this textbook forever. So one of the nice things here is it doesn't expire, right? Like some online textbooks do, they expire. This one is forever. So you can reference this for the rest of your life if you want to, which could be helpful. Please. Right. Yeah, just your I number is fine. Perfect. Okay, great. Let's see. So that's the textbook. Let's see. What else do we need to cover here? Let's see. Where's my slides? Okay, great. I think at this point we are ready to kind of just set up our VBA. Is that right? What time do we get out of this class? 11:15. Okay, that's right. Right before Devo. Okay, great. Let's do this. So yeah, I'll let you get your textbook up and running. Um, you'll need to purchase the textbook to be able to submit the assignments. And let's just go ahead and set up the VBA. So these are some of the things that we need to do today to just get set up. These are like the one-time things that we need to do for the semester. We don't need to do this more than once, or you shouldn't. First thing here is we need a Windows machine for this class. So raise your hand if you're on a Mac. Andrew, you on a Mac? Price is on a Mac. Anybody else? Is that a Mac car? No. Okay, great. You switched. When did you switch? Oh, okay. You switched back or you switched over to PC? Oh, okay. Wow, lucky you. Just in time. You don't like it? Fair enough. Fair enough. So price, there's a couple of options that you have. Do you have Parallels installed? Parallels is a way to run Windows on your Mac. Oh, okay. If you've done that before, I think that's possible. What I've heard, if you have to reinstall this file every time you log in. So it's a little bit of a yeah, that's a good way to say it. But it's possible. If you want to start using that and see if how that goes, see if that's actually doable, that's a possibility. But we can also talk more offline. If you wanted to pursue parallels, there's some options there. Um, the reality is you can do I shouldn't say most. You can do a lot of things on Mac with VBA, but especially towards the second half of the class, we're going to do some stuff that Microsoft has chosen. It turns out Microsoft has chosen not to include that functionality in the Excel version of Mac. So it's not even, I mean, it's not even an option, you know. Microsoft has just chosen not to include it in there. Um, so yeah, okay, Windows versus Mac. We're gonna need Windows. Let's do this. Let's download this Atlas file, and that's going to allow us to submit the assignments to the textbook. We'll do the developer tab, and then we'll open up the VBA IDE, and we'll go to that point. So let's do this. Let's go to the main page here on the course website, Ops Analysis and Modeling. And let's click over here where it says download, bless you, download the Excel add-in. Atlas 15A. So this is an XLAM file, which is actually a VBA enabled template file, which is kind of cool. And we're not going to open it just yet. We're just going to download it. So I'm going to download that. I'll save it to my downloads for now. I'll download the file and I'm going to open up my Windows Explorer and go to my downloads. So here's my downloads and I've downloaded the file. And what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to right click on this file and go to properties. And as is true for all VBA enabled files for Excel, they've added this option down here called unblock. So I have to go into the properties of this file and click unblock to be able to access the VBA features. And that's a security feature, right? When VBA came out shortly after, I mean, not too long after VBA came out, it was used as a virus, right? So people would write malicious code using VBA and send it out to everybody. People would open up this file and it would delete files off of hard drives. It would delete hard drives. I mean, it would cause mass chaos. That's kind of the power of VBA. And so they introduced some security features that say, okay, you can only use this if you unblock it first, right? So we're going to have to do this for most of the files that we download. And again, we're just going to right click on the file, click on unblock, click OK, and that's what we need to do first. And then without opening the file, I'm not going to open this one yet. I'm going to open a separate Excel. So I'm just going to open Excel. I'm going to open Excel on my computer and my privacy matters apparently. And I'm going to open up a blank file. So here's Excel. And one of the first things we need to do is enable the developer tab. So just out of curiosity, raise your hand if you have the developer tab up here on the top. Anybody? Oh, most of you. Nice. Man, you guys are set. You guys are already ahead of me. If you don't have the developer tab, go to File Options and then do, let's see, which is it? Customize ribbon. There it is. So File Options, Customize ribbon, and over on the right, there's a developer tab. Just check on that box and that will show up. And this is one of the things that they hide by default because it's powerful. This is not the kind of thing that you want grandma using. I mean, somebody who doesn't know Excel. So I'll click on developer tab. I'll click OK. Here's my developer tab. And we have developer tab is now showing up. And at this point, click on Excel add-ins over here in the developer tab. And for me, I don't have any add-ins selected, right? But what I want to do is I want to add an add-in. So I've opened up my add-ins here. I'm going to click on Browse, and I'm going to leave this window open right there. This is a little bit weird. I'm just going to leave this open. I'm going to go back to the downloaded file that I have over here in my downloads. Right, so I've clicked on Browse over here. Here's my Browse window for Microsoft add-ins. And then I'm going to open up next to it my Downloads folder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag this file right over here. Kind of weird. I'll do it one more time. I'm just going to click and drag that file from my downloads into this browse folder right there and then click OK. Question? Okay, let me come check. So yeah, check your neighbor. Help your neighbor on this one. See if your neighbor, tell your neighbor that you can get this. Perfect. Sure. And then you right clicked on it and you did properties. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, don't try to open it yet. So right click on that and did properties and then click on unblock. So there's an unblock option right there. Perfect. That's it. Now go back to your Excel without opening that yet first and then click on add-ins. Excel add-in. Yeah, no worries. It's not one that we usually use. Yeah, right there. and then click on Browse. And what we're going to do now is we're going to drag and then click on the windows there, drag that file over into, yeah, yeah, perfect. Yep, yep. Drag that over there. Perfect. That's it. And then click OK, and it should be selected. Yeah, perfect. And then you click OK, and you should see an atlas right there. That's it. So you got it. Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow. Let's see. Click cancel again. It looks like it was trying again. Right click on that one. Should be. Oh, this is downloads. Do a left click and then a right click on the file. Left click first, then right click. Perfect. And then properties on that one. There we go. And then unblock. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so now, yeah, yeah. Drag that over. Yep, you already got it open. Perfect. Nice. And then click OK there. And then it should show right there. Perfect. Click OK there. And you should see an atlas tab. You got it. Did you get it? Okay, you're working on it. Yeah, let's check. It should be checked when you add it, right? And then click OK. Oh, okay. Then that one probably need to go right click on the file again. On the one, yeah, right there. Let's go to that downloads. Where is that on? Is it in downloads? Yeah, see if that works. And then properties, at the bottom. Yeah, I know it's a long menu. Properties and then unblock. So that's also near the bottom right. Yeah, and then click OK on that one. Now click OK, and it should, there it is, Atlas. So you got the Atlas tab now, and that's where up here on this Atlas tab is where you can use the, I'll talk about that in just a second. So you got it. Branch, not going well. It's not going well. It's gone. It's gone. It's not even here anymore. It's gone. Um, do you have to re-download it? Maybe you just got to re-download it. It's not you. It's probably Excel. Yeah, he did. Yeah, try to re-download that. See if that works. Got it? You got it. Carter, you got it? Nice. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. And then click on Go. Do Excel add-ins. That works too. And then that's this window. And then click on Browse. Yep. And that's it. And so drag. Did you right click on that one already? And then Properties, and then Unblock. There it is. Yeah. Nice. Yep. Okay. And click and drag that over. Perfect. And then that should show up. Oh, it's a little slow. This is the University VMware. Man, that takes a long time. That's like interesting. Yeah. Okay. Click OK, and it should show up as checked. Perfect. Then click OK again, and now you should have an Atlas tab. You got it. You're set. Kathleen, you got this? Oh, nice. Jacob, you got it? Okay, great. Did it work? Branch. It, yeah, that's funny. Oh, you might be left click and then right click on it. Left click it once and then right click it. Yeah, and then properties and then unblock. Perfect. Nice. Okay, so now, yes, and right click on that one for me. Yeah. Does that need to be unblocked? Properties. Down. Okay, that's good. You're good there. So close that one. Click OK. Is not a valid added. that be the case? No. That's weird. Can you close down Excel, all of it, and restart Excel? Because it looks like you have some files over here that are still hanging out from last time you opened Excel behind this window. I don't know if that's if there's something in memory here that's waiting for you to figure out. Yeah, maybe close it down all the way and open it back up. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. Yeah, try that one more time. See how that works. So after we do this, um, this is what we're going to use to submit our assignments. So for example, in fact, maybe it's helpful to do an example here. So I'm going to click OK. It shows up here. I'll click OK. And you should have an Atlas tab now in your Excel. And so yeah, there's three different buttons here. One is the instruction sheet, the submit, and the about add-in. So that means we've installed this add-in correctly. And let me go to let me just show you how this works by going to the first assignment. So if we go back to this home page for the course, and you can follow along with me if you'd like, and let's click on create a web query. So this is our first homework assignment. It's not due till next week. I'm sorry. I feel like there should be homework the first week. You know what I mean? It seems like that's an unwritten rule. You have to have like I feel like there needs to be like 60 pages of reading for the first week. I think that's true. I think that's true. There's some people that are still not here today, so that maybe that'll be helpful for them as well. Um, by the way, before I forget, let me also mention Thursday I'm not going to be here, so no class Thursday. Is that terrible? I feel bad about that. Like this Thursday. We do 2 Thursdays in a row. I'll be here next Thursday, but not this Thursday. Um, I I have a video. I think I'm going to have you guys watch for that time, and I'll see if I can send that out today or tomorrow morning. But we're just going to plan on no class on Thursday. Is that okay? This Thursday. I apologize. My apologies. My son is graduating. Thank you, Fry. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, Bryce. No class Thursday. Apology. We'll meet next time on Tuesday. Peter, do you have a question? Yeah, they will. I'll put them on course media here, and then I'll also put them on each day. So, for example, in fact, I even have the recordings, I think, from last semester for this topic. But after today's class, I will go ahead and update our video here for today's class as well. Yep. So if you miss a class, you're welcome to go back and watch. Yep. And by the way, I'm on Zoom too. So if you want to take a Zoom day, I mentioned this in my other class as well. If you need a Zoom day, I think we all need Zoom days once in a while. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Can I take a Zoom day too? I hadn't thought, is it okay if I take a Zoom day? Well, you guys can could still come in if you want. I mean, I'll just be on Zoom. That's right. I'll have you log in for me, and you can just log in, turn on the Zoom meeting. I'll just be in my jammies that day. That's fine. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. Okay, great. Let's see. So I was going to show you how this works. So we've installed the Atlas add-in. So if we click on, let me close some windows here. If we go back to the home page, if we click on this create a web query assignment, this is what this is going to be like for the homework. I'm going to click on load this assignment. It's going to take me to the My Educator, and this is the file right here. I'm going to download this file. This is the homework file. And when I download this file, I'm going to save it. I'll save it in my downloads. I'm going to open up my downloads. And again, I'm going to right click on that file. I'm going to unblock it because we have the properties unblock deal. And then I'm going to open it. And when I open this file, it's going to have that Atlas add-in. And then I can go to this Atlas add-in. Let's see, did I open it? Here it is. And I'm in this assignment file. I'm on the Atlas tab, and I click on instruction sheet. And it's going to create an instruction sheet for this homework assignment right on my computer. This is happening locally on my computer. And all I need to do for the homework is to follow this assignment sheet. And once I'm done with this assignment sheet, I just go ahead and submit it. So what does that look like? So for this one, this is the first homework, right? This assignment has 10 points. Follow the instructions. Turns out this assignment does not require any VBA. We're just going to use some built-in Excel functionality. It says the web query wizard allows you to build a web query. 2017, the original wizard was updated. However, you can use the legacy web query using legacy web in a search box. So using this tool, automatically request information from a web server. So to do this, here's what we have to do. Task number 1 for 10 points. Using the legacy web query wizard, create a web query to retrieve a quote from this website. This site displays a randomly selected quote. Your data should return in cell and range A1. Make sure you change the name of the worksheet to quotes, and you don't need to write any VBA. So if I were to start this assignment for you, here's what this would look like, right? I mean, one thing, I could split my screen. I could say, okay, here's my assignment over here. Here's my Excel over here. The split screen's kind of nice. And I could come over here. I'm going to search for legacy web. Legacy web. There it is. From web, legacy. I'll click on this guy. And this is actually an old version of Internet Explorer. It still exists. Crazy enough. I know, right? It turns out that because it's so old, it doesn't know how to handle all of the scripts, all of the JavaScript on the page. That's how old the browser is. So I'm just going to click on no a couple times, which is fine. It's like, I don't know what to do with JavaScript. Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And then I'm going to paste this website in here. Take this website, copy it, and paste it into the address here. I'll click on go. It will go to that website. There's the quote on that website. In fact, I could just go to the browser too, just to confirm that that's what that quote is. It's going to be a different quote because it's dynamic, right? But that's what it's supposed to look like. That's what it's pulling in here. So I'm going to copy that in here. I'm going to import that into Excel, and it's downloading it. It's going to ask me, where do I want to put it? The instructions say put it in range A1, which is exactly the default. I'll put it in range 1. It's going to go get another quote, and there's another quote. Children should be educated and instructed in the principles of freedom by John Adams in 1787. I'll change the name of the sheet here to quotes. That's what this line is. Wow, I feel like I'm doing this whole thing. Maybe I shouldn't do this whole thing, but I just want to show you how this works. And then after I've changed it to quotes, it says I'm done with the assignment. And what I do here is now I can submit the assignment. So I've used the instruction sheet to tell me what to do. I come up here to submit, and it's going to say, do you want to submit for John Chapman? Yep, that's me. I'll submit it. This screen you won't see because it's an instructor menu. So once you submit it, it's going to run it's going to run a grader. It's actually going to grade you in real time using VBA, actually. And it says submission is complete. Over here, it's given me a results of my submission. And I can scroll down here and look at that, 10 out of 10. I nailed it. And that's it. So that's how we're going to use this Atlas tab to find out what the instruction sheet is for each assignment, and then to actually make the submission for each assignment. And if I were to get something wrong, Yeah, if I didn't name my if my let's say I forgot to rename my let's say I forgot to rename my sheet and I submitted it, what happens? I'll submit it and I'll submit it. Again, you guys won't see this menu. It's going to say, "Oh, you missed some points. Could not find the sheet name quotes." So I missed some points there. After refreshing all web queries, the quote did not change. And that's an interesting error, right? Both related to those both of those errors were related to the name of my sheet. So if I fix that error and I say, "Oh, I need to rename this to quotes," it's looking for that specific name of the sheet. I can resubmit it. I'll resubmit again. You can submit as many times as you need, so don't feel like there's a maximum number of submissions. And I get it all correct. 10 out of 10. Questions, please. Okay, great. Any comments, questions, concerns? I should have stopped recording. No, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's all recorded. I'm going to post it. So yeah, if you didn't follow or you haven't bought the purchased the textbook yet, feel free to come back to this video and you guys can knock out this homework assignment. We just did that in like 2 minutes. Um, Relatively easy. Don't worry, the homework assignments get harder, but it's a good starting point. Okay, great. Please. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. In fact, it's pretty quick. Did you just do it? Wow, look at that. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It does get frustrating later on in the class when it tells you something's wrong, but it doesn't tell you how to fix it. And in some ways, I like that. From a teaching perspective, the benefit is there's a little bit of struggle there, right? Most of the learning that's going to happen for you in this class is probably not going to be in the classroom, although we're going to spend most of our class doing VBA code. But most of the learning you're going to have is you and the auto grader, right? That screen right there. You're gonna be seeing some error messages. Let's see. Yeah, you're gonna seeing some minus points. You're gonna see some red quotes here, and you're gonna have to spend a few minutes trying to figure out how to fix that error, right? In this case, it's pretty easy. You just got to change the name of the sheet. But once we get more into coding and loops and if-then statements, that's where most of the learning is going to happen. So that's actually really helpful from a learning perspective. That's really good. Okay, great. Let's see. We did great on that. I think the last thing to talk about here is some macros and some basic VBA stuff. There's really two more things I wanted to cover. We got about 15 minutes. That's perfect. So some of you have probably already taken VA 215. Let me go ahead and close this assignment project and back to my regular book one Excel sheet here. Um, so maybe most of this is going to be a review, but I think it's helpful just to get us back into this thinking of where do we write the VBA code, right? When we talk about VBA, where is it in Excel, right? How do we do that? So there's what's called a IDE, an integrated development environment. And that's in the developer tab and that's under Visual Basic. So let's go ahead and open up our Visual Basic. I'll kind of split my screen here. I have my Excel on this half of the screen and I've got this Visual Basic for applications over here on the right. And this is where we're going to spend a lot of our time in this class is in this Visual Basics, Visual Basic for applications. Um, One of the great things about Microsoft Excel is that Microsoft is dedicated to keeping backwards compatibility, which means if you're in a company and your company writes a big VBA program in Excel and Microsoft comes out with a new version of Excel, they're going to try to make sure that everything you've written in the past is still going to work for the next version. That's the backwards compatibility. And the reason why Microsoft wants to do that is because they know that if the time comes that a new version of Excel comes out and it breaks our code, um, everybody's going to go to Google Sheets. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're done with Excel. There's no reason to do Excel anymore. So by definition, by the nature of Microsoft's business model, they are well motivated to keep this backwards compatibility. And the good news is that if you write VBA code today, the likelihood of VBA code working in 10 to 15 years from now is very high, remarkably, which is not true for a lot of other programming languages. The downside is that what's the downside to backwards compatibility is that you have a lot of stuff that's kind of carried over from previous generations of Excel that we don't really understand, why. There's some words, there's some syntax, there's some definitions that it's kind of just carried over, and we just kind of have to accept it, right? That's just kind of how the way it's always been, and that's kind of the nature of the downside of backwards compatibility. But there's the good side's worth it, I think. So let's do this. Let's record a macro, right? And let's see what happens on the VBA side when we record a macro. So let's do this. I'm going to come over here to record macro under my developer tab. And it's going to ask me for a name. Let's call this, let's do a profit and loss statement, maybe P&L. And what if I do Control P for a shortcut key, which means if I hit Control P, it will run this macro. Now, wait a minute. What if I, Control P also stands for print, right? Not anymore. It turns out that this will override your Control P that we know and love, the print command. This will override that. So let's not do Control P. Let's do Control Shift. If I hold Shift down, let's see. If I hold Control and Shift and P, maybe it's this one. Where's my P? Oh, there it is. I have to take it out first. Hold the Shift down, push P. Now the shortcut key is Control Shift P to run this macro. And where do I want to store this macro in? I can store it in a personal macro workbook, and that will make this macro available to me whenever I open Excel, which is pretty cool, right? Every file that I ever open on this computer for Excel, it will be stored there. But I don't want to store it there. I just want to store it in this workbook right now. And I could put in a description, profit and loss, and I'll click OK. Once I click OK, it's going to record everything I do, right? So we have to be a little bit careful. It's going to start recording. I'll click OK, and it's recording. Now, what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to double click on this module 1, and you can see here VBA. I'm going to double click the header so I expand it to the full window. In fact, let me go ahead and increase the font because it's really small. Let me go to where is it? Format. Let me go to Microsoft Sans Serif. Let me do 18. Is that better? I could do more. What do you guys think? Is that good? It's amazing. How's that? Okay, good. So this is the name that I typed in, right? And it's got some comments here. This green stuff is just comments. But I want to show you what Excel is doing as I'm recording. So here I'm starting recording. I'm actually recording right now, right? I haven't done anything yet. I've just hit record. Let's do this. Let's type in, let me just do a simple revenue. And then let me go down here and I'll do expenses. And then let me do profit. And you can see as I'm making changes over here, it's actually writing VBA code over here. It's saying in this cell, type in revenue. In this cell, type in expenses. In this cell, type in profit. And what it's also doing here is it's got a select. It's saying range D3. So select that range. It's saying range D4. Select that range D4. I can come over here again and I can say, okay, what if my revenue is, I don't know, 1,000, my expenses are 500, and my profit is this minus that. And then I'll stop recording. What it's done here is it's created this VBA for us, um, this actual code. And again, one of the great things about VBA is if we ever have a question of how to do it, we can run a macro and we can record ourselves doing the action, and it will provide us with the VBA code. That's remarkable. That's another good reason why VBA is a great language to learn, is because if we don't know the code, we can get it, right? We can find out what that code is by just recording a macro. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Okay, great. So we've created a macro. We have a keyboard shortcut. And now if I come back to Excel, I've stopped recording, so I'm not recording. If I do Control Shift P, it's going to run this macro. Now, wait a minute. What just happened? Let me come down here. I'll run it again. Control Shift P. Oh, interesting. I didn't tell it where to start, right? So it took the active cell, whatever my active cell was, and it put revenue in that cell. And then it went to range D3 and it put expenses in that cell. But I already had expenses there. And then it went to profit, but I already had profit there. So we didn't see it, but it actually ran this multiple times. So if I were to take all of this out, come up here to my active cell and say, run this again, do Control Shift P, it would run all of that code again, just like I had, right? But most of this you guys are probably familiar with. You guys have seen this before, is my guess, right? Most of you have probably seen this before. But there's really, I guess there's just one more thing I want to mention here today. Um, maybe two things. So if I wanted to change this, I could come over here and say, let's start this in range A1 dot select. So I'm saying go to range A1 first, and then type in revenue. And what if I want to say instead of D3, go to A2 and type in expenses. And instead of D4, type in A3 and then type in profit. And then for these numbers, let's do B2 instead of E2, B3 instead of E3, and B4 instead of E4. And then finally, this is just going to select E5, which is fine because we're not doing anything after that. If I run this cell now, if I run this code now, it's going to change. I've just changed my code. It's going to change where it puts everything. So I can click in here, anywhere in here. I can do Control Shift P, and it will add that information right up here. Now, wait a minute. Well, we got one line off, didn't we? This should be B1 instead of B2, B, B2 here, and B3 there. And if I don't mess up, if I didn't hit enter, it should be like that. So if I get my numbers right, I can delete this and I can run this again, Control Shift P, and there we have it. It's run the macro, it's put it in a different place, which shows you a little bit of what we're going to do this semester is we're going to write some code and then we're going to change that code based on what we need to do. Finally, I guess the last thing I want to mention here is that from an objects perspective, so we're looking at chapter 1 and chapter 3 today from the textbook. We're talking about macros and we're talking about understanding objects and collections. What's an object? So when we talk about an object in Excel, an object is a thing. Quite straightforward. An object is a thing. An object is a thing. And what's interesting about an object from a programming perspective is an object has two different things associated with it. An object has a method, and a method is something it does, and it has a property, something it is. Those are the two parts of an object. Those are the two things of an object. An object is a thing, and it can have a property and a method. And for example, this dot select is a method of this object. So range A2 is an object, it's a thing. It's talking about this cell right there. Range A2 is an object. That object has a method. And this method right here is the select method. We're selecting that cell. So that's the basic takeaway from content for today is an object is a thing. It can be a range. It can be a list of cells together. That's an object. And an object is both a method and a property. It can have a method to do something like select, or it can have a property like a value. So I can come in here and say, I can say range E5 dot value is equal to SCM 48, 478. And now if I run this, it will come over to E5 and as a property of this object. So dot value is referring to a property. Notice there's a dot in both cases. There's a dot for a method and a dot for a property. And Excel VBA, it knows what to do with a dot value. It knows what to do with a dot select, right? That's been programmed into VBA. So if we want to change the value of this cell, of this object, we can say change the value to SCM 478, and it does it right there. Okay, so that's the basic building blocks. An object can have a method or a property. We can open up VBA and we can do some macros. And I think that's it for today. So question. Yeah, yeah. You can do it a couple different ways. You can click on the developer tab and click on Visual Basic right there. And that will open up your Visual Basic. Right. I think if you mouse over your what is that called? Your minimize button. If you mouse over that, you can select where to put it on the screen and you can kind of split your screen that way. Windows arrow key. Yeah, that does the same thing. Yeah, great. Love it. Okay, good. Any other questions, comments? Okay, again, I apologize about Thursday. We will not meet on Thursday. I'll send out a video to watch and then we'll meet again on Tuesday. Sound good? All right. Thanks very much. We'll see you then. Looking forward to it. Did everybody able to log in or to do the